DunnWisdom Morning Show. Happy June, everyone. We're kicking off a month with some great, consistent programming here for you. My name is Melissa P. Dunn. I am the CEO of MD Marketing Network, the founder of this DunnWisdom movement, where I love to connect you with people who are getting it done in the community. Typically, my guests are women who are on a journey for professional and personal fulfillment, and they are more than happy to share their experiences with you. And this morning's guest is actually on a journey to get out of debt. She is a content creator, and of course, also a professional in her day job. And I want to introduce you today to Khristann Domville. And listen, guys, I'm encouraging you to take out your pen and take notes on this one, because if you are struggling with student loan debt the way I am, right, this is going to be a very helpful conversation. So let's get started.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I am fantastic. Listen, I love the background. It's so clean.
Thank you. This is also
I'm
my
like all over the place. So tell our audience just a little bit about you. Just like a very short 30-second elevator pitch, what it is that you do.
Sure. So my name is Khristann. I am a project manager. I worked for a healthcare company from a 9 to 5. I started this YouTube channel because I was at a point where I needed some sort of a community around me and this debt-free journey, and some way to kind of hold myself accountable and keep myself on track and encourage myself to keep learning, basically. And so I created this channel, The Other Side of Debt, so that I could encourage other people to take actionable steps towards improving their finances as well.
Oh, great. So before we get into the channel and your financial journey, you mentioned, let's start at the beginning. Where are you from?
So I'm originally from Jamaica, and at 17, I moved to the States. I went to school in Wisconsin, and then I moved down to Florida, and then I went to school here as well and did my master's here. So those are the 3 places that I've lived so far.
Wait, did you say Wisconsin? How was that for you?
It was freezing. It was definitely a challenge. And that's usually the first thing people say. They're like, how did you go from Jamaica to Wisconsin? That's literally like night and day. And it was definitely a challenge. Like when I first went there, I was excited and I was ready to make the most of it. Like I was ready to just deal with the circumstances and get through it. And it was a lot harder than I expected it to be, because it was just very different. The culture is different. The weather is completely different. It's just very different, and you're far away from home, and you're creating a whole new, as we talked about, tribe around you. And so it was difficult, but it was also very fulfilling. I have a lot of great memories. I have a lot of great friendships that I made there, people who I keep in touch with to this day, and they're a part of this journey. They support me on this journey, and they're constantly encouraging me. So I really appreciated the experience, the good and the bad.
That's lovely. And so you went to university there?
Yes, I went to undergrad there.
You went to undergrad there. So what did you study?
I studied psychology, because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Oh, wow. And you ended up getting your master's in psychology as well?
No, I initially was I was thinking I would do psychology and then become a therapist. And then I realized that I would have to go all the way through a doctorate in order to be able to practice counseling and giving therapy the way that I wanted to. And I decided that I didn't want to go that route. And then I graduated from undergrad and was trying to figure out what to do next. And then I ended up getting my MBA in entrepreneurship, because I really wanted to do it in marketing. And at the time, they didn't have that as an option where I was going to school. So I did it in entrepreneurship, because I figured entrepreneurs need to know how to market. So I might as well learn those skills.
Ah, fantastic. And so you're now working in the marketing industry as a project manager?
No, I started out in the marketing industry as a project manager, but when I was doing my master's, I was working at the university that I was doing my master's at in the healthcare division. And then I moved on from working there and ended up getting a job in project management in marketing. And those two experiences kind of combined to bring me to where I am now as a project manager in the healthcare field.
Oh my gosh, look at what we have in common.
Yeah.
So I actually did my undergraduate in sociology.
Okay.
Because I thought, well, maybe I'll go to law school one day. I like working with people. So I did it in sociology with a minor in journalism. And then I went out and started worked for Calvin Klein, ended up in the nonprofit sector. Somehow or another, started working on my MBA and decided to do a healthcare MBA. And actually worked at Cleveland Clinic. And so I actually, my agency specializes in healthcare marketing.
Okay.
So how fun is that?
Yeah, that's why, it's so we can't take any of these steps in our journey for granted.
Yeah.
While we're there, we might not know exactly what that next step is going to lead us to, but usually those things align and they bring us to right where we need to be.
Exactly where we need to be, full circle.
Yeah, exactly.
And like in my case, a whole lot of student loan debt. And from watching your YouTube channel, I see that that's part of your challenge as well.
Yes.
Help me, when did you first decide to take on your debt?
So when I left Jamaica, I was 17 years old. I went into undergrad and my mother was very adamant about me not taking more debt than they initially offered. And I used to hear people at school talking about getting student loan refunds. And I used to be like, that doesn't even sound like it makes sense. Student loan refund? What is a loan refund? So I didn't even look into that. And I took out as little debt as I could possibly take out in undergrad, which was still, I still had to take some out because it was just me and my mother. And so I had to take out some, but she tried her very best to make sure that I didn't have to take out more than I needed to. Like, she really didn't want me to be in that situation. So I just did what I had to do.
Oh, fantastic. And so your blog now, your YouTube channel, I read that you said that you're not a financial expert, but you're basically sharing your journey of getting debt free. Could you help us to paint a picture of what your debt situation looked like and what inspired you or motivated you to start working on clearing it up?
Sure. So at first, I mainly had student loan debt because, like I said, my mother always encouraged me to stay away from that. And then I wasn't really in a rush to get that paid off. That was pretty much in forbearance for years. I would have conversations with people who said that they were working on getting rid of their debts. And I used to think that they were crazy. Like, I felt like I wasn't anywhere in a position to be able to pay all my bills, live a life, and pay my debt. And so I had the option to put that debt in forbearance. I just kind of left it there. And then I eventually started, I realized at some point in time that I was working multiple jobs to barely make ends meet. Like, I was that stereotypical Jamaican who had like 3 jobs and I barely had time to do my laundry, barely had time to spend time with friends and family and those sorts of things. And I just realized that that wasn't a sustainable way for me to live my life. It just was exhausting. And so my next step was, I need to find some sort of income where I can meet all of my needs. I don't want to have multiple jobs to meet my needs. So that's what I started seeking out. And I figured that once I started earning more income, then my finances would sort themselves out. Like, I would be good. I wouldn't have any problems. And that was not the case at all. When I started earning more, lifestyle creep sets in, which is a term that I learned recently on this journey, which is basically where you start earning more money until you start spending more money. And that started happening. And I didn't have enough self-awareness around my spending and my money habits to realize that that was a problem. So I just kept wondering why I was broke all the time. Like, I thought once I started earning more money, this thing would sort itself out. And I started trying to incorporate different habits. Like I would talk to friends about it here and there, a little bit, not a lot. And one friend sent me a spreadsheet to help me to budget. And that didn't work out for me. Like I just couldn't keep up with it. It was very robust and it just wasn't really for me. And so I just kept with my negative spending habits. Like I don't think that I would be able to get a paycheck and my account would not go into overdraft. Like my account would always inevitably go into overdraft, which means that I'm spending more money than I have. And then in addition to that, I'm paying insufficient fund fees, which is more money I don't have. And so it got to a point where all of that and then me trying to figure out what's my next best step. And every time I thought about what my next best step was, that involved some sort of investing. I had to have some sort of money, some sort of cushion in order to be able to make another move. If I wanted to buy a home, if I wanted to start buying ETFs, or I wanted to start trading, and none of those options were available to me. So I basically worked backwards trying to figure out what I needed to do to put myself in the position to be able to do that and have those options available to me. And that's kind of where it started with, okay, you need to get rid of your debt. You need to save an emergency fund. You need to start making a plan for how you want to invest, how much you want to invest, what's your timeline, ask yourself all those questions. So that's basically what led me to, let me start this channel, because there's other people who think like me. And those people, you know, even though I'm not an expert, those people might want to hear from somebody who is a lot like them, who is saying, I feel ashamed about all of this debt that I have, but I'm sharing this with you guys because I don't want people to feel ashamed about it anymore. I want us to start doing something about it. And that's kind of where we are now.
Yeah, shame is, I think, one of the deadliest emotions out there. Hey, Tina, thanks for watching. Good morning to you. Yeah, shame is one of the deadliest emotions out there. If it's if it's bottled up, number one, and number two, if it's left unhealed. Right, it's definitely one of the deadliest emotions, I think, because it causes a lot of stress, which can then lead to heart disease, stroke, all of that. So you made the decision to start on the journey when? How long have you been on the journey?
In 2019. So September of 2019 is kind of when I start using as my marker for when I started tracking. That was the first time that I said, the first baby step that I took was, you know, to create a budget, to understand my spending habits. And then I created a challenge for myself to not go into overdraft. And I haven't gone into overdraft since then. And I've met a lot of other milestones, but that's basically where I started from. Just little things that I could do.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely know how you feel. There was a time in my life as well where that was a huge challenge.
Yeah.
And it's like the money comes in to cover the overdraft, and then it's like it becomes like a ball that's rolling downhill, and you're standing at the bottom of it. It can be very overwhelming, I think.
Extremely, exactly. Overwhelming is the right word, and that overwhelming feeling, it feeds into the shame and the fear associated with the whole of it, and then it just weighs you down until you don't even want to check your bank account, because you don't even want to see the negative balance, or you don't, you know, you just hand over the debit card and hope for the best kind of thing. And we don't have to live like that. You know, we can have a sense of awareness around our spending habits. We can improve our relationship with our money. We can be more intentional about the way that we choose to spend and save and earn and those sorts of things, to put ourselves in a less stressful position.
Absolutely. And, you know, there are a lot of people out there who are making tons and tons of money who have the same issue.
Exactly. Income is not a good indicator of your actual wealth. Like, you could be earning a ton of money and still be broke because you're not spending money wisely.
Absolutely. I saw Yannick came on earlier saying thank you for being transparent. And then there was another person, perhaps from the Women Getting It Done Facebook group, that was saying good morning. So your first step then in 2019 was just to make a challenge for yourself to not go into overdraft.
Yep.
What kind of mind shift did you make internally in order for you to transform that habit?
So I realized that like I said, when I was earning less money, I would say to myself, once I start earning more money, I won't have these problems. And I realized I was still having those problems. And so it wasn't about how much money I was earning anymore. It was about my habits, my spending habits, what I was doing. And so my mindset had to shift, where now I'm trying to think of what needs to change. Clearly, I'm living above my means. So how much money do I actually have to spend? In order for me to figure out how much money I actually have to spend, I need to actually look at some bank statements and look at my spending habits. Where is my money even going? A lot of my money was going to food and clothes and food. So I'm like, I need to make some sort of adjustment with my spending around that. I need to be more aware of the fact that I'm spending a lot in these areas and I need to cut back. Living expenses was another one that I had to cut back on. So a mindset shift change for me was, I was living on my own. I had to get to a point where I'm like, okay, I need to be able to help the people that I love, and I need to be able to help myself a little bit better. And the answer to that was me moving back in with my mother. That took a huge weight off of her shoulders. It took a huge weight off of my shoulders. So it's like letting go of those sorts of things that we hold on to, like our independence or freedom or space. That a lot of people usually don't want to give up, understandably. But if you're really trying to make a change in your life, like for me, I was like, I'm ready to make some drastic moves and figure out exactly what those steps are. And so I identified those things, my spending habits, what I need to change there, how I can live within my means, how I can decrease my expenses so I can have more money to put towards paying off this debt. And that's kind of the shift that happened in my mindset to cause these actions to change.
Oh, fantastic. And it sounds to me like you took it one step at a time, and you were not afraid to be vulnerable. I mean, going back home is something that I know it takes a lot of courage to go home and say, Mom and Dad, I need help.
Yeah. I mean, we're really helping each other because I'm still paying the mortgage here, but it's way less than what I was paying for rent. So it's still a humongous help. And now she no longer has to pay the mortgage. So she has that money herself to be able to work towards her own personal financial journey.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love it. And, from a parent perspective, I hear a lot of adults I hear a lot of my peers saying that their children are coming back home for that very reason. After they graduate, they have a hard time finding a job, or the amount of student loan debt that they have makes it a little bit impossible. And so they move back home.
Yeah. I mean, and it can be a sacrifice because, I mean, you like to have your space and your freedom, and you feel like you're a grown up, and at growing up, you feel like there's these boxes that you're supposed to check, and you're supposed to be at certain places in your life at a certain time. And then for me, I just got to a stage where I realized I'm kind of working on my own timeline, and that, just because somebody else is in this phase, doesn't mean that I need to be in that phase as well. I can be taking my steps and going on my journey separately, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you then started taking steps to kind of, get control over your spending. Did you also make a plan to increase your income again, or were you just trying to manage the money that you have?
So I definitely was intended on increasing my income. I started, for me, I work in the corporate world. So I go to work, and I know that the best way to get a promotion is to start doing the job of the position above yours. So I started talking. I was intentional with my boss and her boss, and I spoke to everybody about the fact that, I'm looking for opportunities to challenge myself. So, if there's anything that comes up, please make sure that you put me in that position. I made sure I was having those conversations with the right people so that when an opportunity did arise, I could be promoted. I wasn't really looking for a side hustle because I don't know, I feel like I have some kind of a trauma around having multiple jobs now after having done it so much when I was younger. I'm not gonna lie, like when I think about it, it's like when I was younger, Melissa, I was ready for like I would go from morning to nights, and I would do like 3 jobs, no big deal, drive up and down the place. No, I just don't have my chest tightens up when I think about
yeah,
from one job and going to another job. And even then, I mean, I was still doing it. At some point in time, I was also teaching yoga while I was doing this. And that felt extremely overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I'm built for that hustle grind type of lifestyle. Mm-hmm. But I certainly would like to explore other ways to earn income. Like that's something that I talk about on my channel a lot. But, when I think about the options that are there right now, I could do it, but I don't know. The chest tightens up.
Yeah, well, when your chest tightens up, that's definitely not the right time or the right move, for sure. Whatever comes to you, and it will. Yeah. Right? Because we know that where working for other people can prepare you and it can stabilize you, but it certainly will not build generational wealth.
Right.
Exactly. And so, but I think that you do have a side hustle. I think that your blog, I keep saying blog. I think that your channel, this brand that you're creating, the other side of debt, I think that you are laying the foundation for creating revenue, but doing it in a way that's on your terms, on your timeline, right? And I think that the content creation industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. E-learning alone is over $24 billion of industry, right?
Yes.
So I could certainly see you turning this thing that you're doing now as your own therapy, as your own way of giving back to the community. I could certainly see you monetizing it in the future.
Yeah, that's the goal, because I would hope to be able to do it. But I mean, at the end of the day, these things do cost money, right? And time is money. So eventually it would be nice to be able to see some kind of return on all the time that I do put into maintaining the channel and creating content that I'm hoping is adding value to people's lives and encouraging them to take tangible steps towards improving their financial health. Sometimes it can be a bit discouraging. You and I touched on consistency being a challenge. That's definitely a challenge for me because, having all these things up in the air, all these things that you have to do, is sometimes some things kind of fall to the wayside. And that's not how I want it to be. Like I definitely want to be dependable and reliable and continue to show up for people. So I'm hoping that I can get a hang of that a little bit better.
Well, I visited your YouTube channel and I watched the episode that you did on your student loan and being able to pay off one of them. And I actually want the spreadsheet. So, so if you ever decide to offer that as an evergreen product,
yes, for sure.
Let me know.
Start adding a link to the access it on the videos.
Yeah, let me know because I definitely want that. So what I'm assuming this is somebody from my Facebook group. She's saying, "Great conversation. Thanks for the courage to be vulnerable and to share your journey."
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It is very scared. It's very scary. Trust me. I always have to tell myself, do it scared, because otherwise I would never do anything.
That's it. And Unique is listen, that multiple job is a real burn up thing. It really is. It can be. And then see, she says, agree with building her channel that you should.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah,
It's
it added
that.
value to me. Absolutely. Others can relate to your story for sure. I mean, I could relate to it because I have, I mean, that graduate school student loan debt is no joke.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just having a conversation with my financial advisor about strategies for how I can start paying it back now that we're coming out of the pandemic, right? Everybody's got to start paying back again. And so, yeah, it's the challenge is real, girl.
Yes. I did go to a financial advisor myself because I thought that this is, again, in 2019. I went to a financial advisor when I was trying to figure out where to start because I'm thinking, okay, this person is going to advise me on how to manage my finances. And instead, she pulled out a pamphlet and she was like, okay, you can buy this portfolio, or you can join this group here for $10,000, or you can be in this one for $15,000 and this one for $50,000. And I'm like, what is in the like $200 to $250, maybe $500 range? I don't have $10,000 to invest. And I was kind of coming to you to help me to figure out how I could put that together to do these things. But I realized that clearly that's not what those financial advisors are for. And so I really had to figure out, I had to start from the basics. How do I budget? How do I understand how to live within my means? How do I not spend more money than what I have? And then figure out where I can get extra money to put towards paying off this debt, because I don't want to, I feel like even if I accumulate other assets, as long as I have debt, I'm still in debt.
Right.
So it's important to get that off of the table. And then the next step is to put your money to work for you. You don't want to continue to just save money, because inflation is going to cause you to actually lose money if all you're doing is saving. So the ultimate goal is to eventually put your money to work for you, whether you're buying stocks, or you're trading, or you're purchasing real estate, or whatever sorts of investment that you can make that will produce a return. And a lot of people have to remember that those things take time. So the sooner we start, the better. So that's kind of what
I love it. So what's your timeline? When do you imagine that you will actually be on the other side of debt?
In December of 2023 is a projection as of now. So I don't know, things could change then. Maybe I can earn more income. Maybe the channel will get monetized and I'll start earning money from there, because as soon as I start earning money from there, I'm going to be putting it towards paying off the debt and putting it back into the channel and those sorts of things, so that, as you guys have said, we can create that foundation and then continue to build it up.
Yeah. And, and I actually am going to put on a big sister hat for a minute, even though I'm not your big sister. And I'm going to encourage you to be open to perhaps creating some sort of product or course, because you are where, like right now, if this were a 5K, right? You finished the first mile.
Yeah.
And there are other people who need to learn how to even get to the starting line.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you can teach people from where you are right now. And I think that will add a lot of value.
Yeah, that was my intention with the channel when I said, I don't consider myself an expert, but there are people who are where I was 2-3 years ago, and they can use the information to, like you said, get to the starting line. And even if you don't do things exactly the same way that I do it, hopefully I'm at least planting a seed that will encourage people to become more self-aware about their personal finances and start making moves that they need to make to improve theirs.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so proud of you. I'm definitely going to make sure that I subscribe to your channel, which is on YouTube, The Other Side of Debt. We put the link in the caption for this video. So you guys, please do like, share, and comment on this show if you found it to add value. So before I go, my last question that I ask every single guest is, please share some words of wisdom. What's the one word of wisdom that you would give someone that's perhaps thinking about getting to the starting line?
I mean, I've kind of put bits and pieces in the conversation, or I tried to, and that would just be to start where you are, start with what you have. Don't feel like you need things to be a certain way in order for you to be able to start. You can start taking steps now, even if that's just tracking your expenses and building an awareness around how you spend, and do it scared. You might be afraid of taking something on, but I don't think that anybody has ever tried anything and failed or succeeded without having failed before. They didn't not make mistakes. There are people who are going to make mistakes and then learn from them. So whatever you're doing, do it scared. Make your mistakes and then make your adjustments along the way. But just don't not take action.
I love it. So jump anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Feel it, say hello to the fear, and keep it moving.
Just don't be paralyzed by the fear,
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
a great conversation.
You.
Let's keep in touch, man. When you're ready to launch your course, come back and we're happy to help you to promote it on this platform.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me this morning, and thanks for everybody out there watching.
Fantastic. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of the DunnWisdom Morning Show. I will be back here on Wednesday, where I will be sharing with you some of the lessons I learned while in California. I've been, as you know, on my Goddess of Love road trip. So I will be sharing with you some of the lessons learned and some of the photos that I did not yet post on social media. So remember, be kind and loving to yourself today. You absolutely deserve it. And oh, by the way, big shout out to Natasha the Diamond Butterfly for lending her technical assistance skills today. Be well, everyone.